Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another night of the CCS. It's our Thursday's playoffs upper bracket. We have Dorado Gaming new on the blue side against Glaive Bingus on the red side. I'm Redacted, joined tonight by Elsa, the Queen. Elsa, how you doing tonight? As we are hot into draft, those bands are coming out like hotcakes, man.
I'm doing well and, getting straight down to business for both of these teams. Clearly, they prepared for this draft. Obviously, a little bit more preparation going to go into these playoff games. But as we already get into that first pick coming out here from Dorado Gaming New, it is going to be the Azir locked in. So we have seen Redacted kind of a rise now of these control mages back into the mid lane being a little bit of a staple.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because of the ability to, safely blind pick these champions. So, but right out of the gate with Azir for King What's Its Face in the mid lane, it is a very high skill intensive champion. So in pro play, we can kind of take for granted that it's a safe pick, but not so much here in a plat league.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Azir now has the potential to be flex top. Granted, we have not
True.
seen Marshall on the champion, but
Yeah,
it's something you have to think about now in
it's
at least
true.
the amateur leagues. So,
No,
yeah.
absolutely. Well, I mean, and obviously pro play as well with like the Shy, I think being the first
Oh yeah.
notable
Okay.
person
Yeah.
doing it. But it's funny that you say that because when I was looking at Glaive Bingus's stats provided by Glacial so graciously, Panzora does in fact have a game of an Azir top, but obviously Dorado is the one who picked up the Azir in this case. But I had it on my brain right when it got locked in, but then I was a little bit disappointed. But Glaive Bingus now having locked in a Mumu Sivir in the bot lane, I'm curious, or so I say in the bot lane, I'm curious whether this Amumu will go into the bot lane or whether it will be flex to the jungle because certainly is strong in that support role, but not necessarily as strong in the laning phase against Enchanter support. So nice flexibility there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do know Xernean has played a lot of enchanters in the regular season, so not too many hard engaged supports, but I'm more than likely confident that this Amumu will be in the hands of Xernean. So we'll see how she pilots these non-enchanter supports. But Renata and Trundle being picked up for Dorado Gaming new here. I think also we can tell that both of these teams have definitely done their prep and their draft as they are wasting no time with these picks here being locked in. I'm curious as to what Glaive Bingus will lock in here last for Art 3, seeing as the support jungle and we'll assume mid lane has been shown already.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are gonna, interestingly enough, they are gonna looks like blind pick this Mordekaiser, presumably for the top lane for Panzora, who has played it in multiple games recently. Did play it in both their games against DZG Olympus, which
Mhm.
they did win both of those games. So it is a strong pick. In the top lane as a blind pick, also it is very very strong. So it'd be interesting to see if they do end up flexing this Mumu.
Mhm.
Going back to that, and you mentioned Xernean's champion pool. She is, I know that her kind of main champions are like the Rakan is kind of the main one. So definitely does sometimes go that engage round. And again, she has played that Mumu. So we'll just have to see where that stuff goes. But also, I like what Dorado does with picking up the Renata Glass there because usually we think of that as a really good counter to some of these hard engaged supports like Amumu.
Yep.
So might end up pushing it in the jungle. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of jungle Amumu right now, I guess is why I continue hinting at that. I do not think it would be ideal to be pushed there. And also, we can see Dorado Gaming continuing to limit the champion pool here from Espresso, or no, I'm sorry, from
Flying
Flying
Squirtle.
Squirtle in the
Yeah.
jungle, wrong side. Banning the Viego out, and then possibly another jungler here too. So that's why picking this Mordekaiser it is a little bit odd for me, just because like yes, the GP is banned out from Panzor, the main champion, but that's the only one. So yeah, and there's going to be another hit to the jungle here as well. So Glaive, I would anticipate now that with the significantly thin jungle pool, they will take their jungler here, since it's probably. I mean, I can't imagine that the Trundle is going to go top. I would think that they want to try to get a more direct counter, but
Oh,
oh,
and
there we go.
Elsa,
Never
they're
mind. There's the
doing it.
flag.
They're doing it. Actually, I mean, Lulu can be flexed too, right? It can be flexed mid, top, support. I
Yeah,
really
back in the
don't
day.
know. I really don't know what Glaive's drafts look like right now, but I think
Yeah,
this probably will be the Amumu jungle for Flying Squirtle here, which
yeah.
means, yeah, we'll see Xernean on the Lulu there. And you were mentioning the jungle pool getting banned out a bit by Dorado Gaming New, and Lilia is also a flex top as well. Granted, the Mordekaiser has already been picked for Panzora more than likely, but I mean, all these picks currently could, besides typically the Sivir, who is in the bot lane, could go in multiple lanes. So
Yeah.
Glaive Bingus's draft currently is very it's a very interesting draft.
Yeah.
We'll see how things shape out in client draft. But Ash being locked in for Dorado Gaming New tells me
Okay.
that their bot lane wants to play pretty safe and wants to scale, as we now see the Camille locked in for Marshall there. He is a Camille connoisseur, so he has familiarity with that champion for sure.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting here because I definitely think we could see the Mordekaiser flex to jungle potentially. It would make sense for Glaive to give that last pick to Panzora, former CCS MVP, top laner from the Wednesday conference, last split, this split
Oh,
playing in the
indeed.
Thursday conference, and the Wukong being locked in. We see more Wukong jungle typically these days, but Panzora also an extremely really strong Wukong player. I believe in the one game that DNX, which is the team that's kind of turned into Glaive Bingus here, won against Goldfish in the finals. He was on that Wukong. So we'll see which one is more favorable kind of in the matchup against the Camille, because I think that is the more important focus here for Glaive. And
Hmm.
while the flexing, was kind of odd, that kind of caught us off guard. Um, oh, I'm totally messed up. Because I didn't even think about being jungle. Okay, so we're thinking about the soul lane, so it's probably Mordekaiser mid lane. Now that I'm thinking about it,
Oh,
they
yeah.
got totally messed up because yes, this is totally the Wukong top lane. That's Panzora's Wukong top, really really strong. And then I would anticipate the Mordekaiser going mid over the Amumu because that just makes sense to me. But um,
Yeah.
sorry, the point what I was trying to make, and then I will finish, is that I've been watching a ton of professional play right now in the draft. Both like Lulu Sivir is a first rotation or first pick into second rotation pick AD carry sort of priority right now. This is a really really strong duo with the scaling hyper carry paired up with these enchanters to power them up. So the fact that they got the Lulu that late into the draft, if you think about it from that angle, is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous indeed. And I'm still honestly still processing the fact that this might be a Mordekaiser mid for the Epic Champion here. Or the Epic Champion, however you want to pronounce his IGN.
The
But
epic champion, epic
the Epic
champion.
the Epic Champion. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Wow. Wow, this is you know, I don't feel too good about Glaive's draft currently, just because we saw the Trundle being locked in, and they still locked in the Mordekaiser, and they had the Amumu. But I guess with the Wukong being in Panzora's hand, that is a lot more damage out for them. But Glaive's Bingus' draft here does have a lot of neutral objective potential, in terms of team fighting with the Curse of the Sad Mummy, obviously, in the Cyclone. Mordekaiser is going to take somebody into the Death Realm. And then, of course, Sivir and Lulu to just clean up the remaining dredges. But they're gonna have to play around that carefully and get through these laning phases first. Azir into Mordekaiser, that's losing matchup for the Mordekaiser. Trundle's gonna be weak in the early game as well. Not Trundle, I'm sorry. Amuma's gonna be weak in the early game as well. So you currently have essentially two losing lanes already for the first about 10 15 minutes of the game. So I do look to expect and see Dorado Gaming New be slightly more aggressive in that early game, trying to punish mid and the Mordekaiser and the Amumu respectively, before these champions start to get online and become really effective for their team.
Yeah, and I think here for Glaive, what the pushing the Amumu to the jungle signals to me is that Flying Squirtle just feels that They will be the stronger player going up against Espresso and the Trundle, who should theoretically have a really strong advantage in this matchup. What Amumu does have going for him is being able to gank early on with the Q coming in early,
Yep.
and then also obviously the level 6 spike, and throughout the game. But those two kind of early spikes are really big, whereas in the 1v1, Trundle's gonna really excel. So I'm gonna look for Flying Squirtle to either go for some creative pathing to avoid the Trundle or find some early gank, especially to the top lane, because Sivir and Lulu don't really have very much gank assist, and they don't really have any reason to be forcing anything against Ashe and Renata, who will have that early poke and CC in the lane phase. So I'm looking for Flying Sword to get Panzora ahead and get that top laner who has shown to be very, very effective, obviously, as we saw last split and this split as
Mm.
well. Get the ball rolling against Marshall, who's probably the strongest player on the opposing team.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed, Elsa. You are absolutely correct. That I mean, honestly, I've just been thinking about the Renata a lot now. Just after seeing their draft, I'm like, oh God, they're gonna want to go in, and she's just gonna hit that
Yeah, that's
hostile
true.
takeover.
That's a good point. Yeah, especially with the three melee, the triple melee on the
Yeah,
top side,
yeah,
there's very little that they can sort of do against that. Even with
yep.
the Ash, if she's able to save the enchanted crystal arrow for more of a peel back sort of situation, you have the Azir, very good at pushing back enemies as well. So it'll be interesting. Now that you bring that up, it's a great point. It'll be interesting to see whether or not the Amumu Wukong Mordekaiser can ever actually get onto that backline.
Yeah, for sure. And before we cut to break, Elsa, you know what makes me wonder what Glaive Bingus could have used to assist them in their draft?
Oh, what's that? I have no idea.
Well, I'll tell you. It's called Pro Comps, which is a drafting tool aimed for competitive and solo queue play. It allows the user live feedback and analysis on drafting, giving you recommendations on your picks, matchups, and just the enemy team's win conditions. Make sure you use the code CCS for 50% off on your first 3 months, and maybe you'll have a more interesting draft than Glaive Bingus here. But we'll see how that works out for them
At
after
least
this
more
short break.
effective.
Yeah, at least more effective into a Renata. But we'll find out how that works out for them as we prepare for game one of Dorado Gaming New against Glaive Bingus. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss it. Welcome everyone to game one of our upper bracket round one Thursday playoffs. It is Dorado Gaming new on the blue side against Glaive Bingus on the red side here. Elsa, we have ourselves a 5 champ lineup in the river. Seems like both teams aren't looking for any shenanigans in game one here. So any summoners or yeah, well, just they're saying hi, but any summoner spells or runes that look interesting to you, or everything about standard?
Well, I mean, you know what you know which lane I love redacted, and it's the top lane. So I wanted to
Yep.
focus on that because as I said, I think that these are the strongest players on their respective teams. And for Panzora, going all in one direction, which is offense, taking the conqueror, which is obviously gonna, provide that additional damage, as well as that healing in the extended fights, and then the ignite. Whereas Marshall choosing to go with the teleport and the flash, and then also going with the grasp of the undying, which does jive with that as far as looking to try to get through this lane phase, and just out trade in those multiple auto attack trades and get what he can later in the game. He's gonna once he gets some items, he's gonna scale well. Anyways, but that just signals to me again that we definitely could see some gank action into this top lane. At the very least, we're definitely going to see Panzora playing aggressive in this lane. So enough about only one part of the game, as these junglers have already started pathing around. But that's my one little thought.
No, I absolutely agree. In my little prep note things that I was finally able to do for the first time in a while, we both have seen and know that these top laners are somewhat of the pivotal points of their teams respectively, but I actually don't expect to see their junglers give them too much attention as of right now, just due to the mid lane matchup and what they are. We'll probably see some ganks here and there, but I expect to see Espresso actually look to pair up with King What's His Face and look to punish this Mordekaiser a bit more, just due to how advantageous that matchup is for the Dorado Gaming new mid laner here. But
Yeah,
it looks
yeah.
like my thought was actually disregarded, as Panzora will flash away, and he realizes Panzora cannot get out, so he will ignite Marshall and get the first blood, and gives his life over to Espresso as well, knowing that there was no escape for him. So that was actually still a very well played trade from Panzora here, getting the 400 gold for the first blood kill as well.
Yeah, is it in the top lane redacted? That's what we call work. Yeah, absolutely. I mean that's the thing is actually for Panzora, like ideally you don't give the blood or the gold to the enemy team, but because you have invested in this ignite, in this early aggressive summoner spell, you really are dependent, honestly, on getting ahead. So it's really unfortunate there for Marshall going down. He does expend his own flash, also doesn't end up getting the kill. It does go to Trundle. So as Wukong, you're just kind of like, well, sorry, sorry jungler, but didn't go to my lane. So for Panzora, it will be a pretty big lead. We can see that he's able to get the double longsword coming in, whereas it's just the refillable potion for Marshall. So that's going to be a huge stat difference.
Yeah, and it looks like they will want to punish Panzora again as the pillar comes out. Thwack, thwack.
Okay.
Dead goes the monkey. Marshall gets the kill. 2-1 in favor of Dorado New right now. Gold only about 500 difference.
And that's just some really nice pathing and attention to the top lane from Espresso. Um, if you are Marshall in that situation, I guarantee that he's telling his jungler, you cannot just leave me on an island after that gank situation, because while they did trade the kill, as I had mentioned, it's going to be really, really rough for quite a while for Camille in the world that they do not get that gank off. This time, the kill does go over to the Camille. In addition to that, Panzora just now returning to lane and getting the level 3. But down into the bot lane, we do have a lot of heavy trading coming in here, as High Legacy and Exernian, they obviously are aware that the jungler is up on the top side, so allows them to play really aggressively. Speaking of junglers,
Absolutely, as Flying Squirtle will make his presence known, and High Legacy and Exernian were trading very aggressively. Blobby almost going down, but had the health pot there to just top him off and ensure that his health was not in a precarious state. Exernian and High Legacy will be recalling now, as the wave was in about a neutral position until the Dog New members have pushed it forward. But once again, I guess we're just really, I guess Directed Cam has also wants to focus on everything we've been saying about this top lane, right? Like, it's gonna be a 1v1 matchup here. This is where all the action's happening right now. I'm very surprised, honestly, that King's What's Its Face and the Epic Champion have not traded a lot more aggressively than they could have, especially more for the mid laner of Dog New, as I feel like he should have been punishing that matchup a lot more prior to Mordekaiser getting level 6 here now. But Espresso is here in the top lane once again. But Exernian has made a roam as well. Polymorph the Trundle, who will have to retreat for the time being. Ignite on the Trundle as well. Panzora wants this fight. He has the damage, the shield as well. Flash from Trundle, but Trundle goes Mumu with the bandage toss.
He's alive!
Marshall is dead once again. Panzora lives. That will be a 2-0 punish for the side of Glaive Bingus.
Wow, and here on the other side, High Legacy just able to walk it out. A little bit of an unfortunate use of the CC there from Blobby. Is going to hit this one. Late spell shield from High Legacy, but they're just, no level 6 from the Ashe, so there's not going to be anything traded back as far as actual kills, as Exernian already running down here with the Lulu, has the tier 1 boots as well as W to speed herself up, so really not going to be a whole lot lost by this Sivir, who is going to fall a little bit behind in CS, but on the other side, Panzora picking up some more important resources there. More importantly, also not going down. So really, really big there for the side of Glaive Bingus, and really efficient use of time and resources by Exernian, roaming as a support all the way up into the top lane without costing her team, her AD carry in particular, much at all.
Absolutely, and that it's not something you see very commonly, especially at level 4, I believe she was, making that roam to the top side. But as you pointed out, it is a Sivir, so she has plenty of wave clear and just safety in her kit that will allow her to CS without much danger. So Xenia was able to make that roam without having a fear that her ADC would be punished, as we did have some action in the bot or mid lane, but not much came of it. The action continues in the bot lane. Flying Squirtle looking to take down Mushai, who will have to punish and cleanse away. Squirtle may have went a bit too far forward. High Legacy already taking down Mushai. Flying Squirtle will be claimed as well. High Legacy will flash away. Espresso looking for it as the bailout comes through. The double kill for Espresso. Triple for the Trundle here as they punish Glaive Bingus for their aggressiveness. That Renata bailout being placed at the perfect time, and Espresso flashing to ensure that High Legacy was killed first to make sure that bailout steroid there did exactly as intended and got him the revive.
Yeah, and just a lot going on in that situation. First of all, Flying Squirtle, just really unfortunate there. We saw Muchai blowing the cleanse early there before Amumu used the Curse of the Sad Mummy, and then flashing out, which is the right thing to do by the Ashe, and then Flying Squirtle still using it just to try to get, like that last hit. Had the Amumu saved the ultimate, things could have gone very, very differently there, because Trundle obviously went very, very low, and then ultimately the Renata W, really, really strong ability, super underrated because of situations like that where, any other champion in the game, you're looking at one kill for the Trundle and then he dies. So really well played there from Espresso, but also Blobby as well, hitting W.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Elsa, despite the fact that we've had this much action in the early game, the gold difference is only about 100. I wouldn't even call that a difference at this point right now, as we just take a look at the gold right now between our respective champions here. Panzora having quite a bit more in his wallet, as we see Dog New getting the first Drake on the left here, the Infernal. Mountain will be the next one. But yeah, and then if you just go through looking at our gold, of course, 4-1 Trundle, you expect to see him have a lot more against his opponent there. And yeah, it's been pretty even, I would say, in the distribution across, well, not even, but what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But
the gold is fairly even, even if there's like a little bit of difference. But Flying Squirtle,
Flying Squirtle, Brandish Toss, and the Bingus jungler will just give their life over. It was a very not well coordinated engage there. I mean, it's really hard, I feel like, to pull off anything when you have 3 melee champions who are not in sync because everyone has to get in melee range. So this probably is one of the detriments, one of the fallbacks of having 3 melee champions in your top side.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with playing a Moo into Trundle, specifically in the jungle role. I mean, Flying Squirtle just really caught out there. Normally, a Moo probably would be able to survive, especially with this, tankier build coming through here. Looks like it's going to be the Sunfire Cape first, but with the Trundle ultimate drop down by Espresso, they're just able to melt him instantly, and without any teammates nearby, with this tank build not actually being tanky, not really doing damage, Moo is going to find himself in a lot of those situations all game long, because there's really no better, I mean, there's no other tank on that side, and Panzora's in trouble.
Panzora and Espresso in Mortal Kombat once again. Panzora looking for the kill. Flash from Marshall. The Ignite coming out as well. The clone dash forward. Panzora gets the kill. He will not go down without a fight.
Yeah, Panzora still claiming kills in these 1v2s, which is really impressive for this Wukong pick, because what I did want to bring up is Wukong is not really a scaling champion, especially in the side lane against something like this Camille, which we know does scale really, really strong. Even when with her damage to the turrets and the split push.
But if you can put the Camille down, as she is right now,
it's true. She is put very far behind, so. But there is a window, there is some window of time. It's only 12 minutes in the game right now, but I'm talking more, 20 minutes from now, if we get there. There's only so long that Wukong will be able to bully. He hasn't taken a turret or anything like that yet. So he needs to continue, rather, generating this pressure on the side of the map, because he has done a great job, let me be clear, getting multiple kills in 1v2s at this point. But I'm just hoping that they'll be able to keep it up.
Absolutely, Panzora has been a terror, and in my opinion, I believe that he's fine taking those trades, even if he dies the 1v2, because he's always getting something back, right? As Blobby will flash for the handshake, connects the arrow as well. Wild Group comes out from Xernean to ensure that she doesn't go down as quickly. The hostile takeover to I'm sorry, hostile takeover to
You're good.
Thank you. It's been a while.
Xernean died.
Xernean died, correct.
That's it. Ooh. And now we can see this pressure here, because Marshall does have the teleport, but going to be forced to expend it in order to defend his turret. Espresso not on this side of the map, and this is what, Panzora wants to be able to do, because and that's how also Ignite champions are able to, or that's how Ignite picks are. The Ignite Summoner spell is able to function against teleport, is if you're able to just force your laner to out of lane, because you're get an advantage as Panzora has built up based on the early use of the Summoner spell, then Marshall just forced to use the teleport, not to help the team, but just to get back to lane. So he's generating that pressure. We won't be able to see Marshall TP out and do Camille things like separate the AD carry out of the fight, or separate the Mordekaiser out of the fight, and get in with the E-flash and all that fun stuff.
And speaking of Mordekaiser, hold that thought though, actually. Okay, no, they're just skirmishing. Speaking of Mordekaiser, he did have a gold bounty over King What's-Its-Face, but it looks like that has dissipated a bit. Probably
weird bounty things.
Yeah, weird bounty things. Riot bounty logic. As what King What's-His-Face is poking the epic champion there, but nothing else coming of it. We do see Dognu though posturing for this Mountain Drake. I don't know if Glaive Bingus will want to contest this one currently. Sivir does not have her mythic online just yet, nor does Xernean, but they are currently posturing in this river, so I believe I was wrong in that take. But we'll see how things progress. Dognu have started up the Drake. Arrow hits Xernean.
Too early.
Once again, epic Mordekaiser is here. He will take Blobby into the death realm. That is actually a great ultimate there, as the hostile takeover goes wide. Panzora pressing down on Espresso here, and they will take down the jungler of Dog New, and High Legacy gets the shutdown gold, and there are now 2 bounties for the side of Glaive Bingus here, and they get the Mountain Drake as well.
Yeah, and I was actually a little bit confused there because the hostile takeover looked like it should have been huge, but it didn't look like it actually
Because
affected anyone. So
he was in the death realm.
I think it was only in the death realm, right? So
Yep.
what, Blobby are denying that cooldown, I mean, or Blobby just misusing it in the death realm is a huge going to be huge
Yeah.
because if that Renata had not been in the death realm, that I think that would have probably turned the fight completely in the other direction. But as it stands now, 500 gold lead for Glaive Bingus, who aren't quite able to finish that turret in the bot lane. Really would have liked to be able to get that one down, but they also don't want to greed and overstay. And once again, it is now the Sivir sitting at 3-1-0 backing, so we'll be able to finish that mythic item as you had referenced before, Redacted, and that is really, really big with the tier 2 boots also completed, getting this Sivir who will just only get stronger and stronger as the game goes on, continuing to get her those items finished. And at each one, even this first one, her team fighting ability really starts to come online.
Absolutely, indeed, Elsa. And I wanted to ask you earlier, prior to that Drake fight, but now since we have some lull time, as I'll say, who do you say has the tempo currently in this game? What do you feel like the tempo is like in this game? Who has the advantage in tempo? I would say.
Well, right now with the Rift Herald drop, I was just going to say Espresso had the tempo early on with those ganks into the top lane. I don't know if they can keep it or not with this Herald being a little bit questionable. Doesn't actually get the turret, and also, losing that fight around the dragon and not getting it. I think that I would say that the tempo is now in the direction of Glaive just because they've shut down that huge early lead that Trundle had. It doesn't feel like Espresso is being sort of the menace on the map that he was during the first 10 minutes, say.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we are at that mid game point now. Bot lane has rotated mid, so it's no more of a standard traditional laning setup as it was prior. So Espresso, of course, Camille and Wukong are still in their top lane, so he can still look for ganks there, but he'll have to be a lot more cognizant and aware of where people are on the map, as we did see the Flying Squirtle take the gate through and just chase off King What's-His-Face a bit. They want to contest for this red Drake here. I don't think Dog New... Oh, hold that thought, as Dog New will contest. Espresso will smite it away from Flying Squirtle there. Battle of the better smite arena jungler for the side of Dog New here. And Hextech Drake will be spawning in 2 minutes as we see Panzora just slowly farming up in that side lane there. We do need to see this Wukong, I feel like, in my opinion, start to exert more pressure because, as you said, Elsa, as we approach the later stages of this game, Camille will start to outscale Wukong, so he's on a timer of how effective he can be within the 1v1 matchup at least, right? Until the Camille will outscale him and just, basically beat him.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that Wukong, with the ultimate in particular, does have really strong team fight capabilities as well. And I think, in that situation, while it's not like you're playing some ultra scaling champion where you just want to sit there forever, you obviously don't want to just give free kills to the enemy team either. So just taking his moment to be able to, get a little bit more gold, and now Panzora down into the bot lane. So a little bit of a swaparoo here, with the Wukong being into the Azir, who kind of has a little bit less ability to opt out of fights, just those kind of 2 key cooldowns of the dash and then the ultimate. So we'll see, but also has the kind of wave clear ability as well. So both teams just kind of farming it up a little bit. And I do think that you referenced tempo at a great time, Redacted, because right after that we saw the invade under the enemy red buff, and while it wasn't successful, it does show the strength of this Glaive team, which is to be able to shove these waves with the Sivir in the mid lane. Going to feel a lot more comfortable in this mid game into the late game than the Ashe, who's a lot more vulnerable with no spell shield, no Lulu either. If she does end up getting caught out. So Muchai definitely got to be pretty careful, but with the dragon spawning here in 15 seconds, the commitment of the teleport from Marshall is pretty huge, but Panzora's already made his way here too.
Yeah, actually, as he should. And you know what? You did comment earlier on the lane swap or lane rotation as that. Ooh, the Epic Champion will take Lobby again. That is such a great ultimate from the Mordekaiser, and Glaive Bingus are just tearing through Dog New. They will ace and wipe the new members completely off the map, and they will get themselves the Hextech Drake. This Mordekaiser pick is turning to actually turn out to be the big brain play, as he has ulted Blobby every single team fight now, and that, in my opinion, is the correct move. Blobby, we would now look to have to see they will play the Mordekaiser tax and get a QSS, and we might have a replay coming up too as well. Elsa, as we see Glaive Bingus claiming this Baron here at 20 minutes into the game, 21 minutes into the game.
Yeah, getting actually, it looks like both of those objectives at one time, and I'm glad that we just referenced the team fight capabilities.
And there's our replay. Oh, okay, hold on. There it is.
I'm glad that we just referenced the team fight capabilities of the Wukong, because as we see here, Flying Squirtle also coming in with the Amumu. On top of everything you talked about with Mordekaiser already, but you just see the Amumu coming in with this ultimate, or not an ultimate, doing nothing, and then just lots and lots of damage. Really, I mean, I would say, honestly, overall, in this fight, Dorado just looks incredibly split.
Yeah, absolutely. Flying Squirtle being very aggressive here. The Curse of the Sad Mummy connects. Mushai is already down. The bailout will not do as intended, and that is a takedown for the side of Glaive Bingus. Flying Squirtle lives due to the wild growth and the tanky stats, and the Demonic Embrace is now online for this Amumu here. So the Glaive Bingus just playing to their strengths a lot better than the side of Dog New currently, as they did greed for that mid lane turret quite aggressively.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, it shouldn't be forgotten that the core, members of this team in Panzora and Exernian were undefeated in their, in the Wednesday conference on DNX last split. This is a very, very powerful team that, many people favored to win the entire CCS last split. So while this game did look pretty close early on, and is certainly winnable still for New, it shouldn't come as a surprise. Espresso is caught out.
As Espresso will flash away, uses the pillar to slow down the side of Glaive Bingus. The Trundle, the Troll King, will live, but will have to go home to recall, as Blobby will just shake hands with Panzora there. But that's not going to deter the Monkey King. He's going to take this red buff, and Glaive Bingus will take the tier 2 turret with the Baron Empowered Minions. I forgot they had Baron for like a hot second until I looked at it and was like, wait, is that Baron?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy
so early in the game.
Yeah, it was so early in the game, but also they were so efficient with the use of their, with splitting their members to grab both objectives.
Ooh, the ultimate does connect. The Ash Arrow, they want to take down this Mordekaiser here. Blobby hostile takeover will brainwash the side of Glaive Bingus for the first time in the last 3 team fights, as the 3-man stun from Flying Squirtle connects. High Legacy is still alive. The Sivir has torn through some of the members. Dog New here. Oh, and that will be a double kill. And that is a near ace for the side of Glaive Bingus. Marshall, the only one left alive.
We've spent this whole game talking about Panzora in the top lane, but the Epic Champion and High Legacy also dishing out so much damage, and particularly in these last couple of fights, really being the heroes here. Multiple Mordekaiser claws, hitting at least 2 members in both fights, and just really, really making the difference here. And even though there were some good moments for that engage, is Marshall trying to look for this kill?
Yeah, Marshall will find the solo kill on the Epic Champion here. Oh, and I love the wild growth and shield coming, Exernian flashing over though. That is a real support. If your support does not flash and save your life, then you need to start looking for a new one.
And the arrow on the back end, but not going to be able to find another engage here. And absolutely, yeah. Exernian doing support things, and I mean, to be clear, that's the right thing to do, but not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And those are the moments
Mm-hmm.
that make the difference. Huge shutdown would have been 1,000 gold going over to the Camille. Probably not going to make the whole difference in the game this time, but in another situation, it certainly could. And I mean, you never know. Um, these games. I've seen bigger turnarounds.
This
I'll
is a
say that at the
CCS
very
where all
least.
teams are frauds.
But at this point,
Right.
it's been a long, long time since we kind of talked about the gold between characters. But in the AD carry position, we're seeing like a 4K gold advantage in the top lane. We're seeing almost a 2,000 gold advantage. 2,000 gold advantage in the mid lane. So just massive, massive differences here in terms of the gold, which obviously is translated into the items. It makes
And Dog
the
New are currently why are they A-ramming
yeah.
with their Camille? Oh, Hextech Drake is up in 15. I'm sorry, I did not leave the objective timer. Okay, so that makes sense. They want to take down the mid lane turret, get the objective bounty. Baron is up in 110, but they are walking
Yeah, they don't mind
towards
giving
their...
this away.
Okay, it's not so yet. That's correct.
Yeah,
I was very curious as to why they're walking away from it. I don't know why I thought we were on Soul Point yet. Glaive, I think that just shows how much Glaive have accelerated this game since that last dragon fight we had, and how much the tempo is now firmly in their grasp.
Yeah, 8K gold lead is, well, about 8K. Oh, 7.5K gold lead, whatever. Very substantial gold lead. It's not, it's not impossible to overcome, especially, Dorado clearly knowing how to play these sort of situations, going for the objective bounty there on the mid lane turret. And that is how you close these gold gaps. It's not impossible. But when we talk about the scaling, definitely going to have to see some big plays out of the solo laners here from Dorado Gaming, both Marshall and King What's-Its-Face, who really has not had any, and opportunity maybe isn't the right word, because there might have been opportunities, but has not managed to use the ultimate from Azir in an aggressive manner. And I think this Baron is just going to be given over as well, possibly.
Yeah, Dorado Gaming New are debating if they want to contest this Baron. Objective bounty from the tier 1 turret in the bot lane has been claimed by Marshall. Shirelia's pop. They are looking for blood. They are looking for murder. Blobby will be the one that will be gifted over to the side of Glaive Bingus. Arrow goes wide as well as King What's-His-Face just posturing in the mid lane. Marshall has decided to just shut off the comms for the time being and aggressively push the bot lane here, looking to claim another turret. But Glaive Bingus are already in their base, and they might just be looking for the end here. Marshall does have TP though. Will he? Okay, looks like, yeah, he's gonna have to TP at this rate. Oh man, looking for the end here as Marshall will TP in. Amumu getting the 2-man stun. Panzora in the back line with the Cyclone. Glaive Bingus may have been off a bit more than they can chew, but it looks like they will have to retreat for the time being. New playing well coordinated defense as Marshall looking for more. The Hextech Ultimatum comes out, the bailout. Marshall goes down, will take out the Mordekaiser as well. Panzora gifted as well. 2 over for the side of Dog New. The arrow will connect due to the spell shield. Exernian giving high legacy that shielding and speed up to ensure they have a quick get out of the new side of the rift. Blobby flashes forward. This is not over just yet. New really want to punish the side of Glaive Bingus here. Hostile takeover again as the brainwash comes out, but nothing will come of it. They will clear out these mid lane minions here and look to take this tier 2 turret in the mid lane.
Yeah, they are gonna continue to this push, but it looks like it's just gonna be Espresso, and Flying Swordle has arrived to clear the wave. So you like to see Dorado not rolling over Marshall. He did manage to, at first I was kind of thinking it was a little bit of a tilt push, but he does end up managing to get all the way to the inhibitor turret and get that inhibitor turret taken down. And then for Dorado, they still do have their Nexus turret available. Their inhibitor has just respawned, so actually their base no more vulnerable. Without the inhibitor down, no more vulnerable than their opponents. So they're still in this game. Marshall, we do see the 1K shutdown being taken. I didn't manage to see who got that one.
I did
Um,
not either.
I
Yeah.
think Marshall had already died. It wasn't him. I'm not sure. But anyways, but it is 3 items here for this Camille. So we do see like Camille in this point is at item parity with this Wukong. So, we'll see. I would anticipate that we're going to see mostly grouping from both of these top laners at this point.
Yeah, as the
But
arrow
Mordekaiser's
comes,
not here.
it will connect on Xernean. High Legacy is alive. Wild Growth we use to ensure that Lulu lives a bit longer. Panzora's in the backline with the Cyclone, though. And Flying Squirtle will progress forward. High Legacy and the rest of Glaive Bingus are still alive. High Legacy is not down just yet, as she will tear through the remaining members of Dorado Gaming. New Wing, What's Its Face, and Mushai are the only ones left alive. And they will retreat as Glaive Bingus here will now look to take this mid lane inhibitor once again.
Yeah, but they don't have any minions, so even though there's 20 seconds still on this Renata, not able to end the game. High Legacy also really, really low health bar there. Looking at the objective timers, is going to be that Soul spawning in 16 seconds. Flying Squirtle still in the area, and Espresso is just going to be spawning at that time. So Hex Soul, which is very, very powerful, is gonna be more than likely picked up here for Glaive Bingus. So, but I will say that that fight is concerningly close, given the gold gap between these teams, which has now shrunk to just about 6,000 gold. But going into that, I believe still was at about that 8K marker, if not a little bit higher. Ooh, as Smoochai she did try to go for the snipe there, so mad respect, but did not quite hit it. But I think that it should be taken over the top with the extra damage and the slow kind of engage ability that Hex Soul provides. It's my favorite one to play with, at least. It's very fun.
Oh no, I'm definitely a Hextech connoisseur as well. I still really like the Ocean Drake, or Ocean Soul, as I just
it's just not as like exciting, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Seeing that chain lightning come out though, yeah. That chain lightning coming out from the Hextech Soul is very satisfying, especially given that we don't have Static Shiv anymore for any new League connoisseurs that may have been new to the game. Flying Squirtle chunked for a fourth of his health bar. Wild Growth comes out, and Espresso and Marshall may have bitten off too much than they could chew. Whoa, King What's His Place flies in, but Chippy is just the game on his own here as he has exposed the Nexus by himself. Mushai is doing the best she can to stop this Mordekaiser from ending the game. He will just buck her with his mace. Mordekaiser takes down the Ash, and Glaive Bingus are now bearing down on the Dorado new Nexus here. High Legacy and Zora and Xernean are alive. It only needs 2 hits, and they will take it down. Glaive Bingus take game 1.
Yeah, Glaive Bingus going to claim the victory in the first one here. It could have been a little bit cleaner, definitely. There was moments where I think this game lasted maybe a little bit longer than it should have. Or, if it was going to last this long, maybe the back timings could have been a little bit better. But with that being said, when we saw those team fights, particularly in the mid game, Glaive Bingus flexing their power, definitely showing us why they are here in this upper bracket playoffs. Handing Dorado knew this loss, and for Dorado, I don't know, Redacted, I don't know that there was anything necessarily wrong with their team comp, but it did seem like they weren't exactly sure how to use it in the team fights, especially early on in the game. They fell into it a little bit more later, but in particular, I felt like the Azir, did do a lot of damage, I guess, looking at the charts here, but it felt a little out of place, I guess. But maybe I'm wrong, I guess, looking at the damage.
No, I agree with you. I mean, damage is one thing, sure, but how you execute your team composition is another, right? And yeah, there was nothing wrong with New's draft, in my opinion. It was just the way they tried to pilot these team fights and go around them. Once again, I don't. Oh, I already left the I already left the scoreboard. But did Renata ever get a QSS? Because there are certain times and certain moments in the games where you have to realize that what your standard build path is not relevant to how the team fight is being played. If Mordekaiser's ulting you and targeting you in every single team fight, and you know your ult was very pivotal and was helping you win previously, you pay the tax and you get that QSS as quickly as you can, so that way it becomes much harder and you force um I'm sorry, the Epic Champion to have to focus somebody else. So I think that the Renata should have definitely paid the tax. I'm not sure, Elsa, if you're still on the screen, you can tell me if he got a QSS, unless you left it
Um,
as well.
I'm not, sadly. I left it as
Okay.
well, but I mean, I do think, like, I will say, in defense, at the very least, like in support, such a low economy position, it does take a
And I
very long
understand
time
that.
to
I
afford it.
do. Yeah.
Even if you're trying to build towards it. So, that can be a barrier, and especially like but you really, really want to get to that mythic to that one, mythic item at the very least as support. Just because obviously that's just such a huge jump in power. So
Yeah.
um, game so we'll see how the teams, how they choose to adjust, if we see big adjustments in game two or not. But I think, the teams getting into this lobby pretty quick, so we'll probably be back pretty shortly, I would imagine, into the draft.
Absolutely. Yeah. We will take a short break as we are going to progress to game two, as we will find out who's going to pick what side. But we'll take a short break as we prepare for game two of Dorado Gaming New against Glaive Bingus. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, as we are preparing for our Game 2 draft of Glaive Bingus against Dorado Gaming New. And there has been a side change. Dorado New have elected to be on the red side this time around. Loser does get the pick, or loser does get the pick on which side they want after each game. So New have chosen the red side, and that spells to me that they definitely want to look for a counter pick. Or what are your thoughts on that, Elsa?
Yeah, I think for Dorado New, going onto the red side makes a lot of sense. Probably, I would say almost certainly going to be handing this counter pick over to Marshall in the top lane, so that he can try to probably be the strong side focus,
Mhm.
excuse me, in this game. Instead of, I mean, he was also the strong side focus last game as well, but in the 1v1 matchup, wasn't able to sort of take that advantage due to the setup in that particular game. So as we do get into the draft, Darius was banned away by Glaive Bingus away from Marshall in the first game as well. So they don't want to see that in one in particular, but what I would like to see from Dorado New is some sort of pivot in the bot lane towards something with a little bit more damage or hyper carry potential, because that is really what is strong right now in this 80 carry meta. We see a lot of the Zeri in particular
And
being
Mushai
played all
plays
around the
Zeri too.
world. And yeah, I know Muchai is a Zeri player, but even beyond that, we saw the Sivir prioritized by Glaive last game. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see it first picked this time as well. But something like that can just pump out a little more. I mean, and it's not that Muchai played poorly on the Ashe. Definitely a lot of arrows connecting, which was kind of key to some of their engages. But I just think that it really it hit a point in the game where it couldn't deal the damage that they needed to get over the top in those team fights that were actually really, really close.
Absolutely. And I know I feel like Ash is such a polarizing pick in amateur or in the meta right now because teams will be, I've even had some teams tell me like, "Oh, well, Ash isn't a bad pick, like she does damage." I understand that she does more so damage over time. She's not more of a bursty AD carry. Um like the Zeri or other AD carries can be, a la Jin. But with Ash, you have to also make sure that your team does play that front to back well, so that way she can get that damage over time executed very well. And we didn't really see that too much from the side of Dog New, especially in those team fights. And then there was just so much CC and disruption, right? Mushai had to constantly kite back and make sure that she was in good position. Whereas with High Legacy, I mean, he was doing the same thing, but when you're having boomerangs being thrown at you, that's always bouncing between a multitude of different champions. It's much easier for you to get your damage off. So we'll see what Dog New look to put Mushai on here in the bot lane. As wow, we will get a B1 Lulu from the side of Glaive Bingus here, and we haven't even talked about the bans just yet, um, as well.
Yeah, I mean, and to touch on the bans, it is interesting because Glay Bingus, I brought up the Sivir as a possibility for the first pick, but they actually ban it out themselves. Shows that they're not really willing to first pick it, but they also don't want it to be taken in the first rotation either. And then in response, Dorado is banning out the Zeri, so kind of denying each other those hyper carry scaling picks. There are
Mhm.
more of them left. The Jinx is one of them that does come to mind in particular. Kaisa, another one, also MF, although MF you don't really think of as much with like the enchanters like the Lulu. But just as I say that, Karma, another enchanter. Not the attack speed focus, which is why I thought of the Lulu MF isn't as much as what we see, but the Karma MF in the bot lane does provide a lot of annoying poke damage. And then of course the bullet time, that AoE potential later in the team fights as well for Muchai. So I wanted more damage coming out from the AD carry position from Dorado, and they gave me exactly what I asked for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I expect to see a lot more agency and just annoying
There's
poke
the
from,
Jinx.
from the side of Misfortune and Karma here on the Mushai. Or I'm saying that backwards. From Mushai and Blobby on the Misfortune and Karma here from the side of Dorado New, as Glaive Bingus will just select Jinx, which is very it's not interesting. Jinx has finally fallen out of the first pick or ban meta. So still Still a great pick. It was just very interesting to see her picked up, as there are other 80 carries, but that just tells me once again that Glaive Bingus, they're comfortable and confident in their team fighting capabilities, and they're once again with Exernian on the Lulu, piloting and speeding up and shielding and allowing this 80 carry for High Legacy to duck and dodge throughout these team fights.
Yeah, and Jinx, while she has gotten knocked down a peg, um, in the context of this particular draft, given that Sivir and Zeri are both banned, when you go to the next tier, Jinx is definitely right there. And on top of that, having indexed really strongly into that hyper carry pick when you pick the Lulu, it pretty much forces you to pick something that benefits from that attack speed steroid. I mentioned the Kai'Sa is another hyper carry, but
Yep.
usually you pair the